everyone, and welcome back to where we sometimes talk about thrillers on Thursdays. And I do have a few things I want to say before I get straight into the book haul. So if you do want to fast forward, I completely understand. I always have timestamps down below. But I mainly wanted to say a massive, massive thank you. And I don't want to get into detail into it in this video because I'll get upset. But in this video, I talked about some unfortunate things that were happening. Our family dog, who was just 3 years old, got very, very sick very, very quickly. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that we did unfortunately have to put Leo to sleep. And so many of you have left just the sweetest, most kind comments. And there were so many that I just have not had a chance to respond to all of them. But I just wanted to say a big, big, big thank you. It's been a very intense month. That's partially why I've been gone this month. That happened, and right before we put Leo to sleep, I unfortunately got COVID, so I was able to be there, but I wasn't able to be there as soon as I wanted to, so it's just been a lot. And then I went to New Orleans. And what did I do in a time of crisis and change? I got bangs because I think I was trying to exert some control over something. But anyway, but it is my favorite time of year, so I'm glad to start filming again. Today, I'm just going to ease my way back into it because I've surprisingly amassed, I think, 10 books or so over the past few months. And then I promise my next video will actually be a compilation of all of these spooky books I've read recently. I'll probably have that one go up maybe the week of Halloween or so. But I will put it out there. If anyone has tips for styling bangs, keeping them from getting greasy, I would really appreciate it because I like them, but they are a lot of work. But again, I'm happy I got them. So far, not regretting it. I don't know where to dive in. I've just got a huge pile right in front of me. First, I will show The Infinite Blacktop by Sara Gran. And if the name Sara Gran sounds familiar, that's because I read and reviewed one of her books a few months back. And that book was The Book of the Most Precious Substance, that was about an sex kind of magic book. And this one, I absolutely loved it. It was weird and amazing. And this one I picked up at a local used bookstore just a couple days ago. And our protagonist is Claire DeWitt, and she's the world's best private detective. And she wakes up one dark night in an ambulance in Oakland, California. Someone has just tried to murder her. Claire follows the clues on a 52-hour odyssey through shimmering Las Vegas and the shabby surrounding desert to find out who wants her dead. And I loved that book so much. I love the idea of a detective novel by that same author. This, I think, came out in 2018, I want to say. But I am just, Sara Gran is the type of author where you read one book and you know you're going to enjoy the rest of their stuff. So I'd be really curious if you all have read this or anything else by her. This next one is a little bit weird. I also got this at a different used bookshop. Something came over me and I've been really wanting to be swept away by a female-driven fantasy novel. I used to read more fantasy when I was little, and I want kind of an adult version of that. And so I randomly came across this, and it doesn't even have a Goodreads page, but it's called Emerald House Rising by Kerr, and this came out in 1997. And the reason I picked this up is because it does have an Amazon page with the reviews, and so many people said they are really nostalgic about this, and they go back and they reread it every single year. But it says that our protagonist wants to create jewelry for the diadem court until the night a mysterious noble appears wearing a ring only that she can see. Its touch transports her to a distant fortress where Jenna learns that she possesses incredible, undreamt of magical powers. And there's a murderous plot. I just want something to get swept away in. So if you, even beyond this, if you have some recommendations for some especially standalone fantasy novels, I'd really appreciate it, since I'm not necessarily wanting to go into a 10-book series. But I would love some recommendations for fantasy novels for people who maybe don't read a lot of fantasy. This next one I am so excited that I was sent, and this is The Case Files of Rocky Mountain Paranormal Research Society by Robert Lewis and Bryan Bonner. And as you can see, this is an autographed copy. I was very kindly sent this by Bob Lewis. He's a fellow horror YouTuber. He's also a member of my Discord group, and he's very active there. By him, and this is a book written by him and Bryan Bonner, and it's a compilation of some of Colorado's most interesting and terrifying alleged cases of the supernatural. And what I think is really interesting is it's a compilation of a lot of different creepy cases, I believe, and it gets into the historic and scientific research behind them with really cool and eerie images. So I think whether or not you live in Colorado, but I think maybe especially if you live in that area, this would just be so cool and interesting. And I own a lot of horror novels. I don't own a single book that is like this. So So for me, it's going to be a really interesting one to dive into. I'll also link his YouTube channel down below. He has a lot of great videos. So again, big thank you to Bob for sending me this one. I'm really, really excited. A lot of these, there's a theme here. You're going to see I'm just going to a lot of used bookstores. This one I have not read, which is embarrassing since I review a lot of horror novels, but I'm sure many of you have, and that is Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. And I realized as I was reading the summary of this that I have heard this title mentioned so frequently, but I had no idea what this is about. So this is about an aging rock star who loves to collect morbid items. And his most recent item is a suit of a dead man that still has the spirit of its owner. And I believe then he starts haunting this guy. I will admit, I picked this up because it's by Joe Hill and I've read other books by him that I really liked. Somehow I have not read this and I'm embarrassed that I haven't. But reading that summary, I will admit, it doesn't really intrigue me that much. So let me know if you've read this and you really like it. I'm sure I've read other books. I really like Joe Hill's writing style, but I just don't find that idea of a creepy suit. But I'm sure it's better when you're reading the book. So maybe I'm being a little bit judgmental, but curious for any of you who have read this. This next one, I was so excited to come across. One reason I think I got COVID, and not maybe got COVID, but I've just been sick a lot. I don't know if you can hear my nose now, but I got COVID. I was okay for a week or two, and then I got a cold. Part of it was from traveling, I think, but I was in New Haven, Connecticut last week for a presentation for work. And when I went into the Yale bookstore, they had Mary, An Awakening of Terror by Nat Cassidy, and I about screamed because this is one of the books we're reading right now in my horror Discord group, which I will always have linked down below. But this one, it's a big book. I don't know if you can tell, it's a lot abnormally bigger. Well, maybe it doesn't look that much bigger, but it's bigger than your average paperback. And I was really loving this. I was listening to it as an audiobook from the library, but then I only got halfway through because again, it's pretty long. It got sent back. I've been on a wait list. And so I just bit the bullet because I am loving it so much. And I knew I'm going to want to own it anyway. But this is about a middle-aged woman who works at a library in New York City, and she loses her job and she gets a call back from her, I believe it's aunt that she had a horrible relationship with in the Midwest, to go back and take care of her because she's dying. And what resurfaces when she goes back to take care of her are really horrible things that happened in her childhood. And I think it's partially related to a serial killer and also just horrible things that are happening in this town. It is really, really eerie and is really getting under my skin and creeping me out. I'm only halfway through, but I think this is going to be one of the books I recommend when people down the road ask me maybe for an updated most disturbing books I've ever read, but really, really, really happy with this so far. This next one I just picked up recently at one of those used bookstores I mentioned, and I'm surprised I've never heard of this because in 2018, I think it won the year's Man Booker Prize. But this is Milkman by Anna Bruns. And this is about a young woman in an unnamed town in Northern Ireland as she attempts to go about her daily life after a high-ranking paramilitary man begins to stalk her. And apparently it's a very insightful look into the troubles of the 1970s. And I will admit, I was kind of rushing. This little bookstore was so crowded, and just with, a lot of people being packed in there, they were like, please pick your books and get out. They said it in a kinder way than that. But the back of the book doesn't really say that. That's what I've gleaned from Goodreads reviews. It's written very vaguely what this is about. So I didn't realize that's what it was focused on, but I'm really excited to check this out. I read obviously a lot of horror and thrillers, so it's will be nice to switch it up and maybe read something a little bit different. We then have two books. My brother kindly got these for me at different, I think, conventions by Junji Ito. We have Shiver, which is 9 of his favorite short stories with his notes and commentary, which I think should be really cool. Now that I think of it, I might have read this one. I'm not sure, but excited to own it. And this is Dissolving Classroom, which is about a pair of twisted siblings, a young man obsessed with the devil and his little sister who's apparently awful, and they're causing all sorts of tragic and terrifying events. I've heard really mixed reviews on this one. A lot of people have said that it's more social commenting on apology culture, which I find bizarre. So we will see. I'm not sure if I'm excited about this one or not. This next one I'll mention very, very briefly because you all have already heard me review it many times, but I picked up a hard copy of Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. It's rare I do this, but I realized I don't think I own a copy. Maybe you all are seeing it on my shelf and I'm not. But I love the idea of owning a hard copy since it is one of my favorite books of all time. And last but not least, my boyfriend's mom, for my birthday a while back, she has such good taste in books. She doesn't read horror novels, and so that's why I was kind of surprised she picked out this for me, because it's one I've been wanting to read, and it's not as if she has access to my Goodreads TBR or anything like that. So she's a really great gift giver. But this is The Salt Grows Heavy by I wrote down Sassandra, and so I was double checking that's not what her name is, and it's not. It's Cassandra Khaw. But this one sounds so cool. I might have even, I can't remember, this might have been in one of my books I want to read for 2023, because this is a new release. But this follows a mermaid and a plague doctor through a decimated kingdom where they run into a village full of bloodthirsty children controlled by 3 grotesque surgeons. The mermaid and the plague doctor will have to let loose the darkest parts of themselves in order to survive. And I have not read it, but this is the same author who wrote Nothing But Blackened Teeth, which I've heard really good things about. But this is such a nice little quick one. And I don't know about you, I might make a video about this, but please let me know if you also listen to a lot of audiobooks. Have you been struggling to read physical books? Because I have been finding that, and I don't like it about myself. So I think having some kind of shorter physical books to ease my way back into it will be really, really nice. So that is everything I had to talk about in this video. My next video, as I said, which will probably go up later in October, will be a book compilation reviewing of all the different creepy books I've read lately. If there are any of these you're really excited about that you want me to focus on reading so that I can review them in that one, that would be great. Also, if you did not have a chance to see it, I posted my annual Halloween shopping video, and so I'll have that linked at the end here. And the last thing I'll mention is that in that horror Discord group, I'm going to be posting episode discussions for Mike Flanagan's newest show, The Fall of the House of Usher, which comes out, I think, today, the day I'm filming this, since I know a lot of you are also big Mike Flanagan fans as well. But again, hope you all are doing well and staying safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.